The folks at OpenAI are very serious, and they're also very thoughtful about wanting to make sure that AI has beneficial impacts on the world. And so that conversation was awesome. And then when we tested the technology on our end and we thought it was really quite interesting, we went back to them and we said, look, the thing you need to know about Be My Eyes is we provide our tools and services for free to our community. And we said, is that okay with you? And they said, that's good with us. Let's go to it.
Welcome to the first episode of the A11y podcast, where we discuss accessibility, technology, and living life with blindness or visual impairment. I'm really excited about this episode. It's an interview with Be My Eyes about their virtual volunteer AI, which is just so exciting. I've done a couple videos on it, so make sure to check those out if you're interested. Thank you to all the Carrie on Accessibility Patreon members for supporting this channel. If you would like to join Patreon, you can do so for as little as $1 a month and help support the mission of accessibility. Without further ado, here is the interview with Mike Buckley, the CEO of Be My Eyes. Welcome, Mike Buckley, the CEO of Be My Eyes. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I know there's a lot of really exciting things going on at Be My Eyes, especially the virtual volunteer. In your own words, could you describe exactly what it is and what it does and how does it work?
It's an artificial intelligence-based assistant that allows someone using our services to take a picture of just about anything and get a pretty complete description of what that image is, number one. Number two, it also has a kind of contextual or analytical layer that allows you to go beyond just what the image is. So one of the things that we've talked about a lot is you can take a picture of your refrigerator and it can tell you what's in there, but it can also then tell you what you can make for dinner based on those ingredients. The third thing is that it enables a conversation between the person utilizing the service and the technology. So if you have follow-up questions about the photograph or multiple photographs, you can go deeper. You can search for a price, for example, on a bottle of condiments or whatever it is. The other thing that we do is if and when the technology fails to provide a correct answer or a good answer or a usable answer, we've built in an automatic rollover where the person using the service can choose to call a sighted volunteer on Be My Eyes as a backup measure.
That's amazing. As somebody who's visually impaired myself, this kind of technology is really exciting, and I think it could really open a lot of doors for those in the blind and disability community.
Well, we had started talking with OpenAI either little bit in late December and a little bit more in early January, because I thought that there were things that we could work on together or ways that we could help the community of people who are blind or low vision through the utilization of artificial intelligence. They called me back again in February and said, can you keep a secret? We're going to launch something really interesting. And we said, sure. And they told us what it was, and they let us play with the technology for a little while. And we were incredibly impressed by its capabilities. And so it came together very quickly. And then we built this product together over the next 5 weeks and kind of launched it in a beta format. But basically it came about as just the result of a few conversations. So it was pretty exciting.
That's amazing. Is this what you were hoping for before they called you in February? Was this what you were envisioning?
I wish I could say that I'm that smart, but I don't know if I'm ready to proclaim that yet. I thought there might be something we could do together, but I don't think I recognized the power of kind of the technology that they possess and our ability to work together quickly. So I can't say I completely envisioned it, but I'm glad it happened.
What was that conversation like when they did call you?
I mean, it was great. The folks at OpenAI are very serious, and they're also very thoughtful about wanting to make sure that AI has beneficial impacts on the world. And so that conversation was awesome. And then when we tested the technology on our end and we thought it was really quite interesting, we went back to them and we said, look, the thing you need to know about Be My Eyes is we provide our tools and services for free to our community. And we said, is that okay with you? And they said, that's good with us. Let's go to it. After that, it just happened very, very quickly.
And that's the great part of Be My Eyes. Everything is free. And do you potentially see any way of monetizing this toward the customers? I mean, will there be an out-of-pocket cost for customers in the future?
Not for people who are blind or low vision, Carrie. What we're going to do is we have a number of corporate customers right now: Microsoft, Google, Barilla Pasta, LinkedIn, Spotify, just to name a few, Procter and Gamble. Um, we will ultimately build the functionality of a virtual volunteer into our offering for corporate customers, to help them with their customer service centers, for example, utilizing artificial intelligence. And so our intention is that that should continue to pay the bills so we can keep the service free for blind and low vision globally.
That's awesome. I know a lot of assistive technology these days are hundreds and thousands of dollars. So to see a company like Be My Eyes really dedicated to keeping it free for the community is just phenomenal in my estimation.
Well,
Um,
I appreciate you saying that. And as you know better than I do, there are people in different parts of the world who aren't going to be able to afford an out of pocket charge, right, for some type of technological assistance. And um, there's a host of data that talks about the high percentage of people who are blind or low vision either being unemployed or underemployed. And so that's part of our philosophy on keeping these tools free.
yes, yes, that's great. And hopefully it stays that way. What is the status now? Can people join the beta? And when will it be available for everybody?
So we've got a small closed beta right now, and we are adding people to that very slowly. There's also a waiting list that you can sign up for on the Be My Eyes app that puts you on the list. My hope, Carrie, is that within a couple of months we'll be able to release this more generally. We haven't given a specific date, but there's a very legitimate reason for that, and that is we really need to make sure that the technology is working well, that it's working safely, and that we're respecting the feedback from our beta testers, from the blind and low vision community. An additional core part of our philosophy is wanting to make sure that we build tools with the blind and low vision community rather than for them, right? The number of people who I've talked to in the last 3 months who have said, I am sick and tired of people launching a product for me rather than talking to me about what I need, right? And so we're really trying to build this with direct input from the blind and low vision community and get it better and better and better, making sure if efficacy is strong, its safety is strong, and then we'll launch it after. So that's a very long-winded way of saying I don't have a specific date for you, but I hope it's in a couple of months.
I'm sure all of us are really looking forward to that. What has the feedback from the beta testers been?
It's been overwhelmingly positive and really humbling. I'm very, I've said this a bunch of times, but I'm very, very wary about the kind of artificial intelligence hype cycle that we're in right now.
Mm.
A lot of people are making promises or have delusions of grandeur or whatever you want to call it. But beta testers have used phrases like life changing with us. They've used the phrase, my gosh, I can get my independence back. Wow, I can travel to another country and operate seamlessly through translation and everything else. And so, look, we've got a lot to work on, and I view us as having a tremendous responsibility to get this right. But I think the possibilities are limitless. There was one beta tester who, a lovely guy based in the UK, who said he lost his vision about 3.5 years ago, and he was kind of crying because he said, I can browse my Instagram again. And he's like, I know that just seems like a very small thing, but it's a connection that I have to kind of friends and family that I can enjoy again. And I think about that a lot.
There's a very small select few people who actually put alt text, but the overwhelming majority, no, they don't do that. Can you think of some more examples of what beta testers have used it for that has really stuck with you?
So there are a couple. There was a couple that's a beta testing it together, and they have a bird in their home, and the bird gets out of the cage like once a week, and it drives them crazy. It takes them an hour or two to find it, and using the virtual volunteer, they took a picture of the room that the bird likes to go to, and they found the bird in 1 minute because the tool identified what portion of the room the bird was in. I just thought that was a really, really cool one. There was another one that we did where we took a picture of the map of the Indian railway system, and then we asked like how to get from Bangalore to Delhi, and it gave very specific point by point instructions on how you would do that, taking the public rail system, which I thought was really cool. We've seen people use it in restaurants to identify kind of only the chicken dishes or the vegan dishes. We've seen it used for like preliminary shopping, right? That like navigating certain shopping websites, the accessibility on many of them is awful,
Hmm.
right? And so we've seen some preliminary use cases there that are really encouraging. Again, I want to kind of limit the hype here, but I really do believe that the possibilities, if we continue to work on this and refine it and improve it, are limitless.
Yes, I do want to go back to some of the concerns and delve into the AI a little bit more. But before I do, could you explain what led you to name it virtual volunteer? I was explaining this to a colleague of mine who's an assistive technology trainer, among other things. And when I tried to explain virtual volunteer, he just automatically assumed that it's all the sighted volunteers. Like, what are you talking about? This is what Be My Eyes has been all about from the very beginning. There seemed to be a little bit of confusion for the volunteer, the virtual volunteer, because the sighted volunteers are pretty much virtual already. So, how did you come up with this name? And is this the name that it's going to have?
Well, you're the first person that has given us that feedback, but I'm glad. I'm glad because you don't want to have confusion. Look, we sprinted on the development of this thing over 5 weeks, and we thought this was an interesting and clever name, but we may have to change it down the road based on the feedback that you just gave us. And so I don't think there was any sort of grand design or multi-layered analytical process to think about what to name it. And now you've given me pause. Now
Well,
maybe we have to call it AI assistant or something like that.
Well, the thing is, when I first heard of it, because it was paired with the explanation of AI, I automatically it clicked in my head. Not everybody stays up to date with the news, so I noticed when I tried to explain it to certain people that were not as technological or were not keeping up with the news, then that's where the confusion set in. Whereas when I talk about it with a lot of people who do keep up with the news and AI and all that, they got it right away. So I felt like that was the
You know
difference
what?
there.
But that's really good feedback. Look, we have to design for everybody, right? We
Hmm.
can't just design for someone who reads AI news or whatever. And so that thank you for the feedback. I'll bring that to the team.
Okay. Now let's circle around back to AI. Are there any concerns about the accuracy of the virtual volunteer, this AI, and how do you deal with the inaccuracies?
So it's not perfect. Um, I took a picture of an Amazon shopping page, and it was toasters, and I didn't realize that on the page I had accidentally cut off the word toasters based on where my screen was, and it identified them as slow cookers instead.
Mm.
I took a picture of a thermostat, and it correctly identified the thermostat and the manufacturer of the thermostat, and it had the correct temperature. But it told me about the buttons wasn't imperfect, right? And so there are mistakes that it's making right now. Uh, I will say the level of accuracy is still outstanding overall, but this is part of the reason we're going slowly here, right? We need to be cautious. Like making a mistake about, a thermostat or a toaster may not be a big deal, but you and I can both envision real
Mm.
world scenarios where a mistake would be much more troubling, right? Or problematic,
Absolutely.
navigation or whatever. And so, um, I'm encouraged. Bottom line is, I'm encouraged by the current accuracy overall, but we need to continue to improve the systems on a daily basis.
Are there any safety precautions or safety nets that Be My Eyes is implementing to offset those?
Yeah, absolutely. We have we've had a very kind of extensive agreement with our beta testers about not using it for certain things. Like we've said, this doesn't replace a white cane. It doesn't replace a guide dog, right? Let's not go there yet. And so we're trying to do everything in our power to safeguard it right now. And part of that is not only explaining its limitations, but also moving slowly.
What about privacy and data? Where are all these pictures going that the beta testers and that we will eventually, as a community, be sending to this AI? And how can our data and privacy be protected?
Great question. In the near term, we're analyzing all the data. Why? We've got to make the tool work better, right? We've got to make sure it gets to 100% accuracy or 99.99 rather than 95.99 or whatever, wherever it is now. So we're number one is we're committed to being transparent about that. And we're telling everybody up front, in order to make this system better, we need to analyze it. However, midterm to long term, I hope that we don't end up storing any of the data and that it's a truly privacy protected experience. And I'm really encouraged, by the way, about OpenAI's recent announcements in this space. I think if you take a look at what they've done with the developer community, they no longer are requiring developers to share their data automatically with OpenAI. So there's an opt out there. And so I think that that's the model that we'll end up employing. And so, any data would be kind of housed only at Be My Eyes and nowhere else to the extent that we retain anything at all.
Do you think that in the end it will be a choice for the user to submit the data or not?
I think at minimum it's got to be that or and by the way, I don't want to play games with the word choice. I think our responsibility is to be transparent, right? And then you as the consumer can decide to go for this or not go for this. So whatever the long-term policy is that we have, we just need to be super clear, direct, and overt about it. And then the person who's utilizing the services has a choice whether or not to use it.
And the thing is, though, I think a lot of us in the community may not mind so much if we're taking a picture of a box of macaroni or some kind of food product or something that is not really it's not a concern for us for privacy or data. But then, of course, when we're dealing with private information, whether it's medical records or financial information, then we wouldn't want to necessarily submit that to the cloud or to the AI or to whoever it
Totally,
is.
right? Like, well,
Mhm.
well I do think cloud is secure generally, but like that's a whole separate debate. But you're right. If it's your bank statement, are you gonna do that in the near term? And we certainly have told people maybe don't do your bank statement or medical information or things like that in the short term.
But in the long term, though, I mean, that's exactly what we need. Right now we have Ira who has like maybe background checks and all of that, and you've clearly stated it with Be My Eyes not to necessarily show personal information like that. And I think a lot of us are hoping that this AI will eventually kind of solve the answer for us when it comes to personal information like that.
Yeah, I think that there's a way to design this over time that does that, that takes either the paid agent or the paid volunteer out of the personal realm.
Yes, I think that's definitely an opportunity that we're really hoping for. Now, what about AI bias? There's a lot of discussion about AI and its bias, and is that a concern since Be My Eyes is pretty much training this AI model? How do you deal with that?
Well, OpenAI is doing much of the training, and I know that bias is something that they take very seriously. And I think if you look at even the differences between GPT-3 and GPT-4, we're seeing far fewer examples of bias. And so I guess what I would say is, of course, we're concerned about it, right? And we want to always look at it. But really, we're utilizing this OpenAI technology as part of our system. And so, we're really like everybody else in the community, we're putting pressure on OpenAI to get this right. First of all, it's a good question. Second of all, I'm pretty optimistic here that over time this gets better and better. I've noticed even when I ask ChatGPT kind of political questions now, it's tending to give me like multiple bullet points over here, and then it says, but some other people think multiple bullet points over here, right? And so I think they're working really hard on that issue. But like anything else, like will it probably be imperfect in some ways? Sure.
Yeah, that's the blessing and the curse of technology, right? There's going to be good and bad for all
And
of it.
humans.
Yeah, true, very true. Now, what are some of the future possibilities that you can see?
I think and I hope where this goes is in the not too distant future, hopefully low to mid single digit years, there is an affordable, um, good looking, lightweight wearable, right? That has a phenomenal digital visual assistant embedded in it to solve a whole host of needs. Real-time video, navigation, contextual understanding, right? I think this is where that goes, and that the prospect of that makes me really, really excited. And so I think that combination of software and hardware in a hands-free, some type of hands-free device is probably where this goes. And I know that's what we're trying to build towards.
I love it. I love that. Sign me up. Are there any other improvements or features that Be My Eyes is working on besides AI?
Yeah, I mean there are a whole host of UI things in there, right? Like design things. Like the beta testers have told us, wow, when I get a result, I want to be able to copy the words and paste. So we added that functionality. The beta tester said, look, I want to upload pictures from other areas and not like my camera roll and not be forced to just take a picture brand new each time. So we've added that functionality. We've added it now a rating system as well, like in order to determine if the tool is performing well. So kind of a thumbs up, thumb down from the user to indicate whether this is working as intended and well. And I think I won't announce everything we have, but we're gonna continue to refine and make this awesome. Like think about it this way. Ultimately, these AI systems will be cheaper and more ubiquitous and available everywhere, right? And so really what's going to win out here is usability and how user friendly something is and how elegantly it's designed and how easy it is to use. So literally we're thinking about that and working on that every single day.
That's amazing. And my last question for you is what excites you most about this technology as it relates to the blind and visually impaired and disability community?
Seeing their reactions. I have cried on multiple occasions, tears of joy with our beta testers, hearing the superlatives they use to describe this experience. It's power, right? I want this community to have more power, right, and more choices. That excites me as much as anything. And it's I was talking to our founder about this, Hans Weiberg, and he and I both kind of confided in each other that we're not sleeping that well these days. But it's not because we're worried. It's just because we're thinking about all the potential things we could do and what we want to do with this technology. And so could not be more excited.
I think that's a sentiment in the community overall. I think we're all very excited and really looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Mike. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you and to learn more about the virtual volunteer.
Carrie, thanks for having me. Great to spend some time with you as well.
And that was it for the interview. I am so excited about this feature. I'm hoping that soon I'll be able to share a video about the Be My Eyes virtual volunteer and show it on video and how it works and share my experience with it. I'm really excited for this time in assistive technology and accessibility, and I just love the philosophy of Be My Eyes and how they really want to keep everything free for the community, and I I love that. So that's it for this first episode. Let me know what you think about the interview or about the Be My Eyes virtual volunteer, or any of your thoughts on any of the topics that we discussed. That's it for this episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.